Hey guys, and welcome back to another division video. Now today let's take a look at this build that I made, focusing on the new gear set that just came out last week, which is the Cavalier gear set. Now this gear set has like two talents, charging and charged. Charging: for each second spent out of cover during combat, agents will get a 5% damage reduction, maximum of 50%. Since we're wearing the chest piece, it is increased to 70% damage reduction. Alright, so the other one is charge. While fully charged, gain immunity to any movement speed debuff, and share this with all the agents, hazard protection, and incoming damage reduction. So all of our allies will get that same 70% damage reduction for 10 seconds, and also remove this movement speed debuff and some hazard protection. So clearly this set is made for support, but I wanted to make a build that is more of like for solo players like me, where I log in and queue with some randoms and I don't have to rely too much on my teammates in dealing damage. Alright, so the concept for the build is triggering the charged talent as much as possible, so we are wearing or using a shield so we could stay out of cover as much as possible. And we have 3 blue cores here and 3 skill tier 3. So we have a skill tier 6 shield. Let me show you here. It's here, skill tier 6 shield. So we have the maximum strength of the shield, and we have a bit of skill repair too, because the Cavalier gives you 40% repair skills. So I decided to have a drone follow us while we are in a fight, healing us, and it does heal a bit because we have skill tier 3 here, not completely skill 0. So how do we get skill tier 3? I went for this named item. It's called Picaros holster. 2-piece bonus gives you 1 skill tier. Since we're wearing technician, we have skill tier 2, right? And I rolled it to skill tier. The other piece is on the mask here, the Brazos the Arcabus. So in total we are having like 1 skill tier here, another skill tier here as the brand bonus, and the other one comes from technician specialization, which gives us skill tier 3, and in combination with the 3 blue cores that we have here on Cavalier, which is very easy to get because all the Cavalier gear set rolls in default of blue core. So you just have to find some armor that has actually just reroll the secondary stat to critical hit damage or critical hit chance, whatever you need. All right, after that I want to deal a lot of damage even using technician. That's why I went for flatline. It gives us 15% damage to pulse enemies. And since we're wearing technician, if we can use link laser pointer on our guns, that would automatically pulse enemies, and we get 15% more damage on pulse enemies. So that is the concept. I have here Kingbreaker as the secondary weapon. It's not really needed, but there you go. Okay, so for the people that are just interested in what the items are, I am using an SMG for the main weapon. I have here a Vector. It has Flatline as the talent with a bunch of crit chance mod. For the mask, I'm using a Brazos the Arcabus. I rolled the main armor into weapon damage, 15%, and it has like critical hit chance and critical hit damage and a critical hit damage mod. For the chest piece, I'm using the Cavalier just so we could like experience this gear set fully, the set bonus. I have your armor and critical hit chance and critical hit damage. And then for the holster, I have Picaros holster. I rolled the blue armor into yellow, which is skill tier 1, and then I have like 2 pieces of crit chance and crit damage attributes. For the backpack, I have a Cavalier gear set. I rolled the substat into critical hit damage or critical hit chance, just try to reach around like 60% critical hit chance and put the rest on critical hit damage. For the gloves, same thing, Cavalier, armor, and crit damage. Lastly, for the knee pads, I have a Cavalier and I rolled it into weapon damage, and I think that is also critical hit chance or critical hit damage. For the skills, shield, just because you want to stay out of cover as much as possible and keep activating the talent that we get from the Cavalier gear set. And second skill is drone or hive or whatever skill you want that repairs teammates or you. I am using drone right now. I find it pretty good. It doesn't really heal that fast, but it does provide decent healing because we get 40% skill repair on Cavalier and we are skill tier 3. Okay, so let's start off with the very top, which is the specialization. I'm using technician for a number of talents here. The first talent that we want is amped. It's a passive talent that gives us a +1 skill tier. The other talent that you want to take is the link laser pointer, technician laser pointer, that automatically pulses enemies just by aiming at them. And the other one that you want to unlock is this one. If you choose to use a assault rifle like Kingbreaker, this is pretty good. It gives us 15% increased assault rifle damage. And lastly, for the main weapon, is the one that gives you 15% increased submachine gun damage. Okay, so let's take a look at the main weapon for the build, which is the Vector SBR .45 ACP replica. It's a submachine gun. I chose this one because you could attach the link laser pointer here in this gun. There's also another submachine gun that you could attach the link laser pointer. This is the tactical UMP-45. You could also attach the link laser pointer here, although this gun has a bit of a lower RPM, only 600, and this one does have large, fast RPM, which is 1200. So anyways, the stats that I have here is SMG damage, critical hit chance, and critical hit damage. And the talent is Flatline. Amplifies weapon damage by 15% to pulsed enemies. After 3 kills, applies pulse on your next enemy that you hit. The mods that I have is pretty simple. Just put a bunch of critical hit chance, link laser pointer, critical hit chance, and lastly 20 plus rounds. Okay, so for the secondary weapon, feel free to use any weapon you want as long as you could attach the link laser pointer. I have here Kingbreaker. You don't have to use exactly this weapon, but Kingbreaker allows you to attach link laser pointer. Also, it has like perfect flatline, amplifies weapon damage, the same thing as our main weapon. For the mods, I'm using the same thing: critical hit chance, and this one is 20 plus rounds. Right? The stats here is assault rifle damage, health damage, and critical hit damage. For the sidearm, you could use any sidearm you want. I just have here a sidearm that has flatline as its talent. Okay, so let's talk about the armor pieces. First up, the mask. I'm wearing a Brazos de Arcabas. The brand set bonus for this gear is skill haste 10% and +1 skill tier. The original core attribute of this brand or item is armor. I re-rolled it to 15% weapon damage, and the attributes that I have here is critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and a critical hit damage mod. Now for the chest piece, I'm wearing a Cavalier. 2 pieces gives us 30% hazard protection. 3 pieces gives us 40% repair skills. It has the talent charging, which is split into 2. One is charging. I already explained this earlier, but you get some damage reduction. 50% is the maximum since we're wearing the chest piece. That is increased to 70%. And yeah, for the core attribute, we have here armor. That is the default one. Just worry about re-rolling the second attribute into critical hit damage and then put a critical hit damage mod. For the holster, I'm using a Brazos de Arcabas again. This time it's a named item. It is Picaros holster. Now, I re-rolled the core attribute here into skill tier, and the attribute is critical hit chance and weapon damage. For the backpack, I am wearing a Cavalier backpack. Now this one will give our character a 10% protection per second. So that is the talent safe charging. The core attribute that this backpack has is armor, and I rolled in critical hit chance, and then I put a critical hit damage mod. For the gloves, also a Cavalier gear set. The core attribute is armor, and the attribute that I rolled in here is 12% critical hit damage. Lastly, the knee pad, again Cavalier, and I have here weapon damage as the core attribute. I re-rolled that, and it has critical hit damage as its attribute. Okay, so for the skills, I'm using a Crusader ballistic shield. The mods that I have here is shield health, and lastly, holstered regeneration. Now for the secondary skill, feel free to use any repair skills that you want. I chose repair drone because it follows me around while my shield is out. While fighting enemies, it does repair me. This is the fixer drone, and the mods that I have here is duration, health, and armor repair. Okay, before we go to the shooting range, let's take a quick look at the stats. I have here 54.5 critical hit chance. Some of my gears have like low or not optimized roll, so you know I could easily get this to 60, but I chose to put the rest on critical hit damage instead. And I have 134 critical hit damage. I think another nice stat to look at for this build is the amount of hazard protection that we have. And right now mine is 39%, but if you are max SHD watch, this is 40%, right? So the 30% comes from the Cavalier gear set, and the other 10% comes from the SHD watch. Very nice, and it does give you like a bunch of protection on bleed, blind, burn, disorient, disrupt, and snare, poison, and shock. Okay, so here we are at the shooting range. Let's take a quick look at the talents that we have to talk about. First up is the main weapon talent, which is Flatline. Amplifies weapon damage by 15% to pulse enemies. And since we're wearing the tactical laser pointer here, the link laser pointer, we will automatically pulse enemies just by aiming at them. So right now, you can see the enemy here. I will zoom in. There's like no pulse yet. As soon as I aim at it, there will be a glow, and that means that this enemy is pulsed, and we will be dealing 15% more damage to these enemies that are pulsed. Okay, so let's talk about the second talent that we have for this build, which is the Cavalier gear set talent, charging. It has two parts. One is charging. For each second spent out of cover during combat, agents will get a 5% reduced incoming damage, a maximum of 50, but since we're wearing the backpack, this is increased to 10% per second, not 5, right? So much faster to reach that cap, which is 50. And after it's charged, it will activate the second part of the talent, which is charged. While fully charged, gain immunity to any movement speed debuff, and share this with all the agent's hazard protection and the incoming damage reduction that we have to all allies. It doesn't really have a radius. It just has here all allies for 10 seconds. Okay, so here we are. I'm gonna zoom in here at the bottom. You can see that lightning icon that is filling up. That is the charging. And once it's fully charged, an icon beside it will appear, and that means that is the charged buff that we give our allies all our damage reduction and hazard protection, and we can't really be affected by movement speed debuffs. So this only happens while we're out of cover. Once we get inside cover, the charging part of the talent will not work, right? So right now I am in cover, and you can see the charging bar or box doesn't really fill up. But once we go out of cover and we have our shield out, like so, it is charging. So in order for you to like effectively use the build, try to use the shield always. It's skill tier 6, so it's pretty decent. And just keep charging and activating charge to buff our teammates and give those buffs like hazard protection and damage mitigation to all of our teammates. Okay, so that is the build. I think it's a pretty nice build. The gear set turns out to be pretty fun if you build around it, you know. Like I decided to go for the skill drone or repair drone that will follow me and heal me, and since the set bonus gives us 40% repair skills, it does repair decently. But this build is pretty much for players like me that are solo, log in, queue with a bunch of randoms. I'm not even sure if, you know, maybe there's another support in the build. That would be bad if I am running a full support, right? So just to avoid that, I decided to do damage myself. So I rolled in a bunch of like weapon stats and weapon damage stats. But in the future, I will make a version that will be like full support, you know, basically instead of having critical hit chance, maybe hazard protection or skill repair. All right, so maybe that's for the next video, but for this one, that is the build. I really like it. It does decent damage, and you know, you're buffing your teammates. Anyways guys, that is it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.